discuss the most pretentious matters of the mind.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so for this one, we have a little clip that I heard today, actually. It was from the Lex Friedman podcast, and he was talking with Glenn Lowry, who is an economist at... excuse me. Hang on. I'm trying to mute the stream
Feeling better?
so they can't hear me cough.
I see.
Only you can hear me cough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So generous.
Right. So Glenn...
Sharing is caring.
Glenn Lowry is an economist at Brown University, and he has a podcast called The Glenn Show, which he does, I think, monthly podcast with John McWhorter, who is a linguistics professor at Columbia University, and then he has other guests on. He's an interesting guy, and he has a lot of takes on social issues and racial issues and things like that. And so Lex Friedman had him on, and they were discussing the old story of the emperor with no clothes.
Oh, yeah. Shall I play the clip?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, here's a clip from the Lex Friedman podcast.
I once read this book by a German political scientist called Elisabeth Neumann. That was the writer's name, Elisabeth Neumann. The book was called The Spiral of Silence. And the argument was, there can be some views, some issues in society that get defined in such a way that it's inappropriate to hold those views. And as a result, people who don't want to be shamed, who don't want to be ostracized, don't express those views. And when they don't express them, anybody holding the view, because they don't hear it said by others, think that they're the only one or one of the few who hold the view. And so they don't want to be the only one out there saying something. So they keep it to themselves. So now this view, this attitude in society could be held by a large number of people, but because of the fear that if they were to express it, they'd be ostracized, no one says it. And since no one is saying it, the others who hold the view don't know that they're not alone, that they are not the only ones who hold the view, and hence they keep silent. That could be an equilibrium. It could be a relatively stable situation in which the emperor has no clothes. Everybody can see that this dude is naked, okay? But everybody thinks that, I don't want to be the only one to say it. And so we all kind of collaborate in this charade of keeping the view to ourselves. Then along comes an event that somebody decides to defy the consensus and to speak out. It could be a little kid who, in the story about the emperor has no clothes, doesn't realize that he's not supposed to say that the emperor is naked. The thing about the kid in the story who says that the emperor is naked is not that he's saying it. It's not even that other people hear him saying it. It's that everybody knows that everybody else heard him say it. Mm-hmm. Okay? The kid who speaks out and says the emperor has no clothes creates a circumstance in which it's common knowledge that the emperor has no clothes. Now, common knowledge does not just mean knowledge. It does not even mean widespread knowledge. It means comprehensive knowledge of other person's knowledge of the thing, okay? So the spiral of silence is an equilibrium that is susceptible to being undermined by a process of a kind of cumulative process, a snowballing process of revelation that you're not the only one who thinks this way.
Okay? I think we can end it.
It's fascinating to think that there's an ocean of common knowledge that we're waiting for the little kid to wake us up to, different little parts of it.
That's
wow. Dang, dude.
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, so I'm familiar with this story. I read it as a kid. And is this a parable of time? Is this like a cyclical event for viewpoints to become dominant and then have subordinate viewpoints?
Maybe.
Like, I'm just wondering because, like, this is exactly what's happening right now to some degree. Like the idea of we need to censor to protect people's knowledge and their view of the world. Like we have to sculpt that, because if it's not sculpted, we don't know what the results will be. Right? But isn't that terrifying? It's a terrifying prospect. I want to be the little kid.
Yeah. Doesn't
I think
everybody?
though, if you're not the little kid, but if you're not the little kid, then you have to worry about your butt getting whooped pretty hard.
Not the little kid.
Yeah, I think being a little kid kind of protects you.
Oh, I see.
Like someone you couldn't like the kid can criticize, right? But someone in the court is going to get their head cut off.
Right. But if everybody in the court does it, they're not all going to get their head cut off.
You don't know that.
Well, it's impossible.
What if the emperor had robots?
It's true.
if everything was automated, they could have an automated guillotine.
It's true, but eventually it works against the emperor's interest. If everybody else is dead, then the emperor's going to die too.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's no good for the emperor if everybody's dead.
I see. So you said this guy he's into economics?
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? Glenn what?
Glenn Lowry.
Glenn Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought of economics guys as being like number nerds. And he seems to be much more of aware of social impact.
Well, so economics is, I would say, first and foremost, a social science. So it's in the same department as sociology and psychology sometimes.
I see. I see.
So what I was interested in with this is what he was talking about, common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't, and that the important part isn't that the child knows that the emperor is naked, or that everybody else knows that the emperor is naked, but that everybody else knows that everybody else knows that the emperor is naked.
So it has to be an agreed upon perspective.
Well, it's not even agreed upon. It's the child saying it out loud confirms for everybody that everybody else knows that everybody else knows it.
But then what if the child said something that wasn't true and people still want to believe it? Like, this is the problem with how we sculpt our reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is common knowledge? Like how? Because then you would almost say then that doesn't that requires individual discernment to align with someone else's?
Right. Well, he said what common knowledge was. He gave a definition of it like a couple of seconds in. I don't know if you want to try and find it.
Yeah, let me roll it back. Let me see here.
The writer's name, Elizabeth Noila Neumann.
A little after that, I think.
The book was called Who Hold the View. And so they don't want to be the only one out there. And when they don't express them, anybody, as a result, people who don't want to be shamed, who don't want to be ostracized, don't express those views. And when they don't express them, anybody holding the view, because they don't hear it said by others, think that they're the only one or one of the few who hold the view. And so they don't want to be the only one out there saying something. Later. So they keep it to themselves. Later, okay. So now says it. And since no one is saying it, the others who hold the view don't know that they're not alone, that they are not the only ones who hold the view. And hence they keep silent. That could be an equilibrium. It could be a relatively stable situation in which the emperor has no clothes. Everybody can see that this dude is naked. Okay. But everybody thinks that, I don't want to be the only one to say it. And so we all kind of collaborate in this charade of keeping the view to ourselves. Then along comes an event that somebody decides to defy the consensus and to speak out. It could be a little kid who, in the story about the emperor has no clothes, doesn't realize that he's not supposed to say that the emperor is naked. The thing about the kid in the story who says that the emperor is naked is not that he's saying it. It's not even that other people hear him saying it. It's that everybody knows that everybody else heard him say it. Okay?
That's the point.
The kid who speaks out and says the emperor has no clothes creates a circumstance in which it's common knowledge that the emperor has no clothes. Now, common knowledge does not just mean knowledge. It does not even mean widespread knowledge. It means comprehensive knowledge of other person's knowledge of the thing.
That's crazy.
Okay?
Comprehensive knowledge of other person's knowledge.
So, but how? So the only part that I'm getting stuck on is how do you know what other people's opinions are, especially when we don't share them?
Well, it's not that you know what other people's opinions are. I feel like that the key to what he said isn't that. So I had it a little bit wrong in how I was formulating it before. It's that everybody knows that everybody else heard the kid say it.
I see.
Not that everybody knows that everybody else thinks he's naked.
So there's a presumption here that I don't know if I agree with a little bit, that we want to believe that we're the only person, right? Maybe, or we isolate and think we're maybe not as many people share our position or share our perspective.
Right.
And it's been my experience, the older I get, to realize that while there are many individuals and we have nuanced ways of perceiving an interaction or a part of history, what we think the causation is, I have yet to meet a person that is truly singular in their view, right? You can always find something in common with someone.
Yeah. Usually, even a person that you consider completely contrary to you. Yeah.
Right? You can usually find some sort of common ground, whether that's like completely silly, right? Something of like, oh yeah, I also like spicy tacos, right? Or I like this beverage, right? It could be a silly thing, right? But I'm saying right. It'd be like walking around and be like, no one in the world likes spicy food like I do. No one in the world can like, or maybe I don't like it, right? And so that's a silly example. But even if we look at it from a political standpoint, I haven't found one person in the world that actually thinks that everything's on the up and up, right? You go to either party and they can say, oh, no, it's the Republicans. Oh, it's the Democrats. Oh, it's because we don't have independence.
Everything's on the up and up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've not met one person that believes in the system fully. I've not met one person, and they can have different reasonings for what they think it is. But that's where I draw like a little bit of a, like, I'm not quite sure if I can go along with this idea of like the person like, well, I don't want to be singled out, because I don't think that I think you would have to be pretty self-elevated to think like I am solely the one aware of this issue, or right? Well, so or maybe I'm missing the point of it.
The context before this in the conversation. So what they were talking, Lex Friedman brought up that there's this weird thing today where if somebody is labeled or described as racist, that is going to stick to the degree that if anybody stands up and says, wait, they're not racist, then you're going to get dragged down in that too. It's a thing that you can be charged with without Any evidence or anything.
Right.
Socially,
you just like throw the label on.
Socially disallowed to deny it or defend against it. And then Glenn Lowry said that is a problem today. And if we went back to the 50s, the version of that would be communist.
Right, sure. The Red Scare.
Right.
Just to be associated.
Right. And you wouldn't need to prove it. You wouldn't need anything. And if somebody were to defend you, they would also be dragged down as a communist.
It's the same idea as the witch hunt, right? If you're accused of it, it's like, that's just as bad as being guilty. Nearly.
Right. But,
right? Because you're going to be marked in a certain way. What
you can bet on is that there's a lot of people who don't agree that this person is a racist or a communist, but they are not willing to say it.
I want to listen to his quote one more time of what the comprehensive knowledge is.
It does not even mean widespread knowledge. It means comprehensive knowledge of other person's knowledge of the thing. Okay? So the spiral of silence is an equilibrium that is susceptible to being undermined by a process of a kind of cumulative process, a snowballing process of revelation that you're not the only one who thinks this way. Okay.
It's fascinating to think that there's an ocean of common knowledge that we're waiting for the little kid to wake us up to, different little parts of it.
That's correct. And the little kid, by the way, could be somebody like Donald Trump, only more effective than Donald Trump. Somebody who is smarter than Donald Trump. Somebody who is shrewder than Donald Trump. Somebody who figures out that when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee at a football game, and says, I'm not going to stand for this pledge of allegiance, that a vast number of people are very unhappy about that.
So I think that the idea that he brought up there that caught my eye is where the sort of waiting for the child, and it's sort of the silence starts to unravel as more people see that other people. So the kid says, "Hey, that the emperor is naked," and then maybe somebody else goes, "Hey, yeah, I noticed that too," and then 3 other people, "Hey, yeah," and now everybody does it. It's the same as I've noticed with masks and stuff. There's places where if you go in without a mask, maybe the person you're with was gonna put one on and they don't, and then maybe somebody in there goes, "Oh, they don't have a mask," and they take one off.
Right.
I mean, I've noticed this with us sometimes.
In what way?
Especially in LA, like we'll go into a place without a mask, and then I'll notice other people take masks off.
I mean, when I came in the airport, I was surprised to see like that is changing. And but I think though that the motivations for different people are very different.
Yeah.
There's probably some that are like, oh, this whole thing is a hoax, right? Stick it to the man. Don't trust the government. There's other people that find it to be a comfort issue.
Yep.
You know, there's other people like that still probably enjoy the comfort and security that they feel from wearing a face covering, right? As if they're like contributing to society in a better way than another individual who doesn't, right? Like, so the motivations, right? And I mean, like, but I think that's also, isn't that what people should do? Like the other takeaway I'm getting from this is, and this is actually something that like I think we've talked about before, is that to have the strongest society possible, there should be a friction. There should be some level of contradiction that's allowed,
right?
So that you can have discourse, so you can have disagreement. Otherwise, we're getting kind of flabby, right? We need to work out these intellectual muscles to some degree, right? Like this is where it's like free speech is dangerous because you can say a lot of terrible things, but then if you're not allowed to, you realize like it's like a sword fight's only dangerous if it's a real sword. If you're playing with Nerf weapons, right, you're probably not going to really get hurt.
Right.
You know?
No, I mean, but we've talked about this before. Who says things have to be safe? Free speech is dangerous.
Well, life is not safe. Life is not safe.
Pretending that it is and or should be. I mean, I don't even understand the ethic that it should be. Why? Well,
this is the same thing we were talking earlier about money, right? Why should we trust a bank or a government with our resources?
That's a great question. Well, why should we?
Because they're insured. Well, it's who's insuring
by
them?
Who? Yeah, by us.
Exactly. It's yes. It's time for the revolution.
There we go.
That's a good that will lead.
Cheers.
Yeah, salute to the revolution,
right.
And then that will lead to some sort of burp and belch of digestion that will lead to the next round of constipation for humanity. Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific. Let's all take a laxative and feel better about it. Let's just get this out, get it out of our system, and move on so we can eat the next meal and just feel the same way and get sluggish.
Yep.
To see some more junk food society. Oh my gosh. I mean, I eat junk food. Dude, I had a In-N-Out. It's not junk food, but it's not healthy food. I would say
it's hard on me. In-N-Out is like I can only eat that all day.